you watch my episodes, and I'm not saying like, oh, come watch me, but if you watch any of my episodes with doing PWCC auctions, I rip into cards. I say to I just on Sunday night, I'm like, okay, this card is a PSA 9 Steve Yzerman. Like I said, I do not recommend anyone buy this card. This is not a card that I would welcome into my. It's overgraded. You can find a nicer one unless you're going to buy it at a deep get discount. Don't buy that. Like I would not endorse the purchase of this card. I have said that several times about cards on PWCC's platform on a show that I'm getting money from them to do. So, I mean, I don't do it. I'm not saying what anyone's paying me to say. I'm saying what I think all the time. Bob's Big Boy says, biggest downside of influencers in any marketplace is the quick burn process where things escalate too quickly in popularity and price. Then when the big money exits, the market crashes and things crash quick. Yeah, that definitely does happen. Bob says, I like Tag and Rare Edition more every day. I am not big on new grading companies, but they have shown proof of concept and have good design. Lots to like from both companies. I just respect your open-mindedness, Bob, and understanding that, nothing is forever. Okay. Corey says, damn, I wish this was the AMA show so we could find out about the new sponsor. Yeah, I'll let you know soon enough. LGC says, great summary of your partnerships, relationships. Proud of you, Gomez. Thank you, LGC. I appreciate that. Thank you, Michael Ham, for the go hit the like button reminder for everybody. Kyle Barassa, influencers just need to be upfront about the underlying motive behind their videos. Are you flipping, investing, etc.? Just be upfront about what your goals are with the video. Definitely. Tip of the Mid says, yep, I love watching you rip the PWCC cards. Yeah, I mean, I will. And I've told PWCC, listen, I'm not going to do a show for you guys if I can't be honest about the cards I'm seeing. If I see a card that I don't like, and I will also, they have their eye appeal. Dennis, you know how PWCC has their eye appeal designations. I will actually say, I think they were too generous with this one, or I think that this one, maybe they should have gone even higher. I'll do both ways. I will just tell you, I'll tell my audience, what I genuinely think. And I will not try to get somebody to bid on a card that I don't think is worth the price, let's say. CC says, in my opinion, content creators are entitled to make money. I only take offense if the content creator is not transparent about their business relationships or insincere about their endorsements. I completely agree with that, CC, and I think that's a good position for people, for content consumers to take, for sure. And Kyle says, will you be investing in Bedard next year? No, I won't be, Kyle. I do not buy modern rookies. I mean, very few, very, very few, almost as a rule. Tip of the Mitt, will there be in-person grading options at the National from that? Yes, Tag will be doing on-site grading at the National. They will be. The equipment is going to be out there. It's going to be amazing to see. Collectors Canada says, what shows will we be attending other than National? I'm hoping to go to the Burbank show in Anaheim. That's about it for me. How about you, Dennis? Any shows? I know you're not going to the National. Any shows you'll be attending?
Just local shows, maybe around where I live. But no, nothing major. Next year, I plan to do a bit more of that. I'm going to have more opportunities to venture outside of my vicinity. So yeah, I intend to go to National and meet up with a lot of these wonderful people I've met over the last few years.
Good. Hey, listen, I know you have people over, and I saw you just communicate with your wife or someone. If you want to drop off, I might keep going with this, Dennis, just to put it out there. But
it's okay. It's just like I said, it was kind of a funny, interesting thing. We had a change of plans. A bunch of people came over to our house for 4th. So then I had to boot everybody out of here. That's why I was a little bit late coming on, a little bit late pushing the Simo.
No worries.
Out. It's 4th of July, but it's kind of crazy.
Dip out if you have to. Let's keep on.
No, I really appreciate that. She just came in to make sure the dogs were okay. It's
Hockey
our
Cardboard,
dog.
Chasing Cardboard, SCL, Chris Sewell, Ryan Nolan, and BIC, who I'm not sure who that is, are the only content I watch these days. So many have dried up or quit. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, we and Dennis were talking about this. A lot of people have just stopped producing content because they weren't in it for the long haul. And even some who started in the pandemic have stuck it out because they love it and they are in it for the long haul. So we see it. And we have people like Dennis who came in, and now look, he's making a great name for himself but what Dennis is doing, and pardon me as I speak about you for a moment in front of you, Dennis. Dennis is, what I love about doing this with you is that you call yourself a novice. I think you've learned a lot in a short period of time, but that's why one of the reasons why we are together is because I've been in the hobby for over 40 years, immersed in it. You've been in the hobby, immersed in it for a couple of years. So we have two different takes here. And when Dennis like challenges me, it's perfect because he's kind of speaking for some of the newer people and forcing me to think through some things and to really, just speak to some things that maybe I don't get the opportunity to speak to at other times. But you also, I think, you resonate with a lot of the newer people in our audience, and I resonate with a lot of the older people. Not older people, but people who've been in the hobby longer.
More seasoned, the people that have been doing this for a little bit longer. Yeah.
Lint Inc. Archive says, been using Tag lots lately, heard about them on Jeremy's show, went and read more about them, tried them once, and I was sold. Jeremy's t-shirt had nothing to do with it. I'm glad. Professor says, Jeremy, your PWCC auction live stream with Josh has content value after the stream and on a rewatch. We talk about cards, so I'm glad it does, Professor. Thank you for that. Bob's Big Boy says, the biggest influencer sin in the past 3 years was the glitzy gobbling hype on VeeFriends. Everyone knew it was hot trash, but promoted it anyway. Those are the things that true collectors are annoyed by. Here's the problem I have with that, though, Bob. Why would a true collector care? Why would you care if you're not interested in VeeFriends, in Gary V's doodles? Why would you care that somebody else is? And if a sports card collector, investor, or flipper is going to migrate into VeeFriends thinking it's a way to make quick money, and then it's wrong, it's not going to be. Again, that's on them for buying something that they didn't like in the first place. Like everyone knew it was hot trash, but promoted it anyway. I had Josh Luber on my show talking about it. It was in the hobby. It was something to talk about. We talked about it, learned about it. Did I go out and buy anything? Sure didn't. Why? Because I don't collect VeeFriends. I didn't buy any of it. So I'm not blaming Gary V. I actually think Gary V's onto something. Believe it or not, I think he's building an IP that is going to be something one day. He's not giving up on it, but the sports card collectors have stopped talking about it, so we don't follow it anymore, but he's still talking about it, and he's building something that's probably going to have cartoons and movies and be something for kids, games and all that. So maybe it's hot trash right now to sports card collectors, but maybe it won't be in the long run. Only time will tell. Dan Chase says, people watch content creators based on their own alignment in this hobby. Well said, Dan Chase. Unfortunately, that is why the collecting channels have 5,000 subscribers and the investing channels have 10 times that. I agree completely, Dan Chase. CC says, Jeremy, your live auction shows are awesome, except when you talk about the cards I'm bidding on. If I like a card, I'm going to talk about it. You know that. Tip in the Mid says, the PSA collector guy does some cool stuff, showing some big losses on cards. Matt is his name. Yeah, the graded card investor. He dipped out for about a year or 2 years, and he's back doing content again. And I watched some of his stuff. He's good. I like him. The Professor says some content creators have pivoted. Dan, the Great Curator, is advancing education about non-sports cards and pop culture. Tip of the Mid says, Dennis, maybe you've covered it, but what got you in specifically? What got you into the hobby specifically?
It was just Ken Griffey Jr. I wanted to get his 89 Upper Deck card, and I've talked about this before. I had a friend of mine who plays for the Mariners, and he's a pitcher, and I wanted to get his baseball card, so I had to look up what his rookie card was, and I started down the rabbit hole. And I had a friend of mine, Jeffrey Potter, he was a collector. He sold collectibles, and he was really into the hobby, and kind of walked me through it. And then I just went from there, and I started watching, content, different kinds of content. I actually, some of the first content I watched and listened to was Sports Card Investor. That was one of the things you found. I mean, it was just kind of the YouTube algorithm. You type in sports card hobby content, he'd pop up. So yeah.
There you go. Tip of the mitt. There you have it. And Dennis, what I've noticed about Dennis is he's pivoted. He's adjusted on the fly. You're not blaming anybody for anything, and you know what you like. You're not susceptible to advice. Now, that said, you do ask for advice. Even when I really started collecting 90s Jordan cards, I seeked out advice from people that I did due diligence on, I trusted, and I got advice. And let me tell you, that advice all was good advice. They never steered me wrong, and I never felt like they steered me into buying a card that they had dozens of or multiples of, or even one of. Like you have to like you don't just ask random strangers on the street for advice, do you? So why would you take advice from a random stranger on the internet, on YouTube? Currency Project says complaining about influencers and content creators is missing the bigger picture. What you are getting is an opportunity to see into how someone's mind works, for better or for worse. 100%. Great comment. You have to think analytically. You have to use your own brain. If you don't use your own brain, you are also going to be prone to blaming other people for your misfortunes, because you are just that's just how you live your life. And I'm speaking generally. It's not going to apply all the time to everybody, but I think that's a fair generalization to make for many of those types of people. Bob's Big Boy, one of the most interesting under the radar content creators is Top Chop Sports Cards. He takes batches of 10 to 20 cards and sends them all to major grading companies, then compares the results. Thank you, Bob's Big Boy, for shouting out an under the radar content creator. I'd never heard of Top Chop, and thank you for getting that name out there here tonight with us. Tip of the mitt. Good stuff. I still need me an 89 Upper Deck Griffey. Mid-Atlantic says, I recall JL, that's me, saying on a prior show that 2/3 of his net worth or net savings is in cards. Strikes me as totally crazy, but that's seriously walking the walk, not just talking the talk. Still holds true today. I know exactly. I don't know what my cards are worth today, but I know what I have into them. And when I then know what I say, don't know what they're worth, but I have an idea. I can look at several cards. Okay, they're worth at least this much. And when I compare that to the rest of my now it's come down as values have come down from a year ago and 2 years ago. It's become a smaller percentage of my net worth, but it is definitely sports cards are the biggest category on my personal net worth balance sheet of any asset, whether it's my financial instrument investments, whether they're under a retirement savings plan or not, my real estate, my savings. Cards are definitely not only Mid-Atlantic, are they they're the majority. Let me just put it that way. They're the majority. I don't know if they're 2/3 anymore, but they're definitely over 50%. Nikola Tesla says, dude, I only get pissed because I ordered 2 cases of top loaders when I needed 4. Explain that to the wife. And Ice Full Moon says, what's going on here? I'm in the trading cards dump and need a good boost of beginners info. Well, welcome to the show, Iced Full Moon. All right. And for the first time, Dennis, since the beginning, we're at the bottom of the comments, and we are at the 93-minute mark. We usually go about 90. We have over 110 people in here right now. So listen, we don't need to stop yet, but if anything you want to jump in with at this point, Dennis, anything that's kind of struck your mind?
Nothing. I feel like we covered a lot of the topics today or tonight. Based on the stuff that you and I spoke about earlier, I feel like we touched on a lot of those subjects that I feel like resonate within this topic. I'm going to be bullish. My thought would be we finish off with something that Cage mentioned about in one of his videos where he was talking about the bull and the bear aspects of our hobby. I think the fact that we have a lot more content creators in our space, there's a lot of people talking about content. And you tell me, Jeremy, you were here well before I was. Was there a lot of content out there before this boom?
There was not a lot of content out there until the pandemic. That really sparked the content craze. And there's more and more content creators coming out all the time. New podcasts are starting all the time. And I want to reiterate what you just said. So I listened to Cage, The Hobby with Cage is now the channel name, Cage Lawyer. And he did the Bull and the Bear episode. And his Bull episode, he said that, I think like when he summarized it at the end, he goes, listen, I am bullish on the hobby because there's so much content and so many content creators that are passionate about the hobby, whether they are in any of these, whether it's the watchdogs or the daily news guys or the interview guys or the card show vlog guys or any of the other types of content. Everybody who's doing content is passionate one way or the other about, some want to see it burn, but most of them are just happy about the hobby and they enjoy it. And I agree with Cage. I mean, that is a sign that even though values of cards are down from where they were during the peak, they're still up from where they were before. And there's still tons of people going to card shows, which is actually like a sign to me, a signal that totally contradicts what some people would have you believe, that the hobby is dying. It actually is a complete, it's the opposite of that. The fact that the values have been coming down consistently for 2 years, yet more and more content creators, more and more card shows and people going to card shows, just tells you how healthy the hobby truly is, that we are growing while values are coming down. We're losing some people, but I think it's a net gain month over month in terms of participants.
Yeah, so I couldn't agree with you more. I think that the fact that there's a very healthy content space with plenty of things to talk about, whether it's collectors talking about, you know, their mail days, whether it's the news of the day, what's Fanatics doing next, the breaking environment. Gosh, there's a million things to talk about within the hobby. There's a lot of different dialogue going on and engagement within the community. The community is very alive and well. I personally am very bullish on the fact that our community is so vibrant. You come into a space, you see a vibrant community that's engaged, that gives you hope. Again, we can go back and forth on whether this is a market, whether these are, you know, cards can be seen as like assets and stocks. But when you see this market, all these people spending the kind of money they're spending on the collectibles, it's like buying artwork. I mean, I definitely feel like there is a value there. I go back and forth on the asset, you know, stock kind of mentality. I can't really sit down on one of those two things, because when it comes time to sell my cards, I'm pretty disappointed they're not worth what I think they should be worth, which makes me feel that that's an asset then, and you're viewing it as an asset. As a depreciating asset or as an appreciating asset. So I think the fact that this community is so alive is a good sign. I think that means there's people that want the hobby to do well. They care about it. It's important to them. The community itself aspect's important to them. So those are the kind of things I feel like, you know, it makes me bullish on the hobby in general. And I think the fact that there's so many folks out here, like there's the fact that you and I are doing this right now on the 4th of July, and how many people are tuned in right now? I know I got to Simoing it late, but just there's 110 on the 4th of July. That's, to me, tells me the hobby is very alive and well. And there's a lot of wonderful people within it that care about it and want to help one another. And personally, I think that's a wonderful thing.
Well said, man. Yeah, it's we've got 102 people with us right now as we're even winding down, which I think says good things about the hobby in general. 4th of July, but yeah. I do think it's also a night where people are getting ready to get back to work tomorrow. Peep says, "Shout out Pepino Man." Yeah, check out Pepino Man. Hope to see him at the National again this year. Lint Ink Archive said, "Wouldn't be surprised if CBC's The National, which is a Canadian news show, gets accused of pumping Magic cards for featuring the one-of-one ring story in their show this past Sunday," because that card was pulled in Canada. Tip of the mitt, thank you for being here tonight. CC says, "When the hobby downturned after the junk wax era, card shows declined. So far, card shows still seem strong. So I agree. This is a good time for the hobby." Same here. Thank you, CC. And LGC, great show, boys. Thank you. Thank you, LGC. All right, guys. Well, that's gonna wrap it up. Thank you to the chat for your questions and comments, and for letting me go on a couple of rants, if I can call them rants or explanations. DPZ, thanks for showing up. Better late than never. I wasn't sure if you were coming tonight, man. I honestly wasn't sure. So when you popped in a minute and a half in, I was glad to see you. The Currency Project, always good to see these guys. Make sure you're following them on Instagram along with everybody else there. Thank you, Scott Nobles. Appreciate you, buddy. Ice Full Moon says, "I wanted to go back to Tough Stuff days as far as Drew." I remember Tough Stuff. Great magazine. Nice covers, oversized. Scott Nobles, thank you so much for a great job. All right, Dennis, you good? You good to end this?
I'm good, brother.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mike Petty. Appreciate that very much. I'm going to end this, but if a comment comes in, I might bring it back up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Taking Stock is now every second Tuesday. We'll be back 2 Tuesdays from now. Have a great week, everybody.